Ever noticed how babies learn? They watch, they try, they grow. Simple yet profound. What if I told you this natural process, observation, analysis, and synthesis, is the same blueprint Einstein used for E equals mc squared? I struggled for years, thinking learning was just about books and degrees. But then I discovered something deeper. There's a final step that changes everything. Teaching others. It's where true mastery begins. Today, we'll explore how this process transforms everything, from scientific breakthroughs to lasting marriages, from raising children to building success. Because real learning isn't about speed, it's about depth. And you're about to discover just how deep you can go. The process of learning and applying in life. Part 1. The nature of the learning process. Let's explore the inner elements of learning, an aspect that's far more challenging than the external factors we commonly see. When a child is born, they first learn from their parents. They observe and mimic every gesture and word from their mother and father. This is the beginning of the learning process, before formal education, books, and other forms of learning come into play. You know what? The learning process actually consists of just 3 simple yet profound steps: multidimensional observation, analysis, and synthesis. When observing, we need to listen from multiple perspectives to absorb quality information. Analysis is when we reflect and contemplate on what we've observed. Finally, synthesis is selecting the most essential elements and making the most important decisions for ourselves. But did you know that those who want to go further, who want to understand more deeply, should step into the 4th stage, sharing knowledge with others? When we write or teach others, we receive challenging questions we might never have thought of before. It's precisely in these moments of being stumped that we realize our knowledge is still shallow and needs further development. This is a precious opportunity to return to learning, understanding, and apply once again, helping our understanding grow increasingly profound. Part 2. From observation to revolutionary discoveries. Great inventions throughout history have followed this learning process. Look at Einstein. His famous formula wasn't created overnight, but was the result of 20 years of diligent observation, analysis, and synthesis. He repeated this process tens of thousands of times. Edison's light bulb is another perfect example of the power of learning from failure. To create the light bulb, he had to observe, analyze, and synthesize 10,000 times. The first time, the bulb burned out. The second time, he tried again with improvements. And so it went, until he completed all 10,000 attempts before the first successful light bulb appeared. Innovation and creativity follow this same process. The question is who persists long enough to win. Those who synthesize deeply enough, observe from enough angles, and analyze with profound reflection will ultimately succeed. Part 3. Application in marriage and family life. In marriage and family life, this process becomes even more crucial. When you meet someone, do you truly observe and listen to them? Do you observe how they behave when they're with you? How do they treat their relatives? How do they interact with colleagues? Or do you rush into marriage right away? Getting married after just 1 or 2 days of meeting, that's what we call love at first sight, or as we say in Vietnamese, lightning strike love. And you know what happens with lightning strikes? They're intense and dramatic at first, but they leave only ashes behind, just like these hasty romances that burn bright and fade fast. I'm very skeptical of couples who marry after just a few months of dating. When people marry in less than a year, I usually have major doubts. Why? Because they might be marrying before fully understanding each other, before thoroughly knowing both families, before understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses. Getting to know each other means going through the process of observation, analysis, and synthesis about yourself, seeing if you're compatible with them. What are they like? What are you like? Do these 2 wheels mesh together? If they don't mesh yet, What adjustments are needed before marriage? You should be at least 70% compatible before marriage. But many people marry at just 20% compatibility, thinking the remaining 80% will naturally fall into place. Forget it, it won't happen. Being 80% misaligned is what kills the relationship. The phenomenon of misaligned occurs when spouses are not aligned in multiple aspects. A marriage can only be lasting when husband and wife are approximately matched in understanding, heart, morality, and intellect. Conversely, when one person is significantly more intelligent than the other, it often leads to breakdown. When one person has good morals and the other poor morals, this relationship will collapse. Even when two people have equal intelligence, but one is oriented towards goodness while the other is selfish, living together becomes difficult. Such differences might be overlooked during courtship, but after marriage, life becomes hell. Take Santa Claus as an example, a lifetime dedicated to doing good, spending 364 days wrapping gifts to distribute on Christmas. To marry Santa, his wife would need to share his benevolent nature. In contrast, consider the witch who can't find a husband because she calculates too much. When we calculate too much for our own benefit, no one dares to marry us, because finding someone equally calculating is too difficult. So what if we're already mismatched? For example, what if your intelligence is much higher than your wife's? You're at 8 points while she's at 5. Here, skillful adjustment is needed. You need to encourage your wife to learn more, help strengthen her 3 treasures: wise mentor, precious books, and good friends. And sometimes you need to play down your own intelligence a bit. You can be clever outside, but at home, you should simplify things for a more harmonious life. That's true intelligence, knowing how to adjust to create harmony. What about moral differences? Being mismatched in morality is equally bitter. Moral character is harder to fix, but if both live within the 3 treasures, they won't be mismatched. For instance, with volunteer work, try to bring your wife along. Keep persistently inviting her, and sometimes later on, she might end up doing more volunteer work than you. Women have a characteristic: when they don't like something, they'll avoid it, but once they develop a liking for it, they dive in like moths to a flame. It's no coincidence that people speak of virtuous men and faithful women. The man is oriented towards virtue, while the woman is oriented towards faith. Once they believe in something, they just do it, regardless of right or wrong. That's what faithful women are. Faith means belief. Meanwhile, virtuous men will only invest in something when they see it as truly good and right. Women just need to trust the teacher to take action, without needing to know if it's good or evil. If the teacher says it, they'll do it. It's like when reading a good book. Sometimes just one chapter is good, but they believe the whole book must be good. So what's the root cause of these issues? It's the lack of wisdom. With wisdom, we know which pages to keep and which to discard. Even a teacher, no matter how good they are, will certainly have flaws. No one is perfect. If they were perfect, they'd already be on an altar being worshipped. If they're still standing here, they still have many imperfections. That's why when someone say, "I admire you so much, teacher," I often reply, "Wait until I'm in my grave. Then you can look up to me. While I'm not in my grave yet, there's no need to admire me so hastily." Part 4. Practicing the learning process through the example of overindulgence. Let's apply the learning process to observe the phenomena of overindulgence. Start with multidimensional observation. Study 20 families, 100 families who overindulge their children. Analyze what happens in the lives of overindulged children. How are they after 1 year, after 5 years, after 15 years, and when they're 20? The observation results show, among 100 families who overindulge, after 25 years, 90 children become spoiled. They become weak, fearful, selfish, and individualistic. They demand their parents cater to them. Some even threaten to kill their parents if they stop indulging them. Only 10 children are fortunate enough not to be ruined. From this, we can synthesize a simple law. Overindulgence is the cause. Dependency and selfishness are the effects. This law applies not just to children, but also to employees. Overindulgence, whether in family or work, leads to similar results. We understand this, but because we rarely apply the learning process, we continue making mistakes, continue overindulging our children excessively. The most important lesson is persistently practicing 3 steps: multidimensional observation, deep analysis, and essential synthesis. Only when we regularly apply this process can we achieve profound understanding and make correct decisions in life.